It's Gretna Court, but there is probably close to 900 to 1,000 people, so just stay back.
Dispatch audio revealing what police knew about this weekend's deadly block party and when they knew it. Fox 45 News demands answers to lingering questions surrounding the response to the mass shooting. Plus, we're pressing the governor for answers about why it took him more than 2 days to visit the city in the aftermath of the tragedy.
Specifically, what action are you?
I just spent the past 4 hours. The folks are in shock trauma.
Fox 45's investigation into the Safe Streets program continues as we learn Safe Streets workers were at Brooklyn Day before the shooting started, but didn't tell police. The new questions we're asking about how Safe Streets workers are trained.
People have a reason not to come to Baltimore, even when they have great reason to come to Baltimore.
Is the violence in Baltimore keeping people away from the city? We are taking the pulse of the people and getting a look at security protocols this 4th of July.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening on this 4th of July. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45 News is learning more about what police knew about this weekend's deadly block party in Brooklyn homes and when they knew it.
Now, police are still looking for suspects in Sunday's mass shooting. 2 people were killed. 28 others were shot.
We know 18-year-old Elia Gonzalez and 20-year-old Kailas Fagbemi were killed. A $28,000 reward is on the table for any information leading to possible suspects. Now, Baltimore police admitting they learned about potential threats at the block party well before the shooting actually happened. Now, dispatch audio is revealing more details.
I have an armed person call at 819 Gretna Court. Hundreds of armed people at 819 Gretna.
Well, tonight we have team coverage of the questions surrounding the response from city and state leaders.
Fox 45's Keith Daniels has been following this investigation for the past 2 days. He joins us live right now with the latest. Keith.
Well, Kai and Mary, we've obtained police dispatch audio. Now, police may not have known when that block party was going to happen, but tonight, according to the audio dispatch, police did know about the potential of danger hours before that deadly shooting happened. Tonight, more questions for Baltimore City leaders about police response to Sunday's mass shooting in South Baltimore that left 2 people dead, 28 others injured, most of the victims minors, the youngest 13. We're hearing now for the first time police dispatch audio captured on Broadcastify. One of the initial transmissions, a report from Foxtrot, BPD's helicopter unit, on the size of the crowd gathering on Gretna Court, which soon turned into a deadly scene.
It's probably close to 900 to 1,000 people, so just stay back.
Then someone called police, the dispatcher, alerting officers.
Caller wanted to remain anonymous. States that hundreds of males and females are armed with guns and knives at the location.
Then ending his day with a press conference at a community center in Brooklyn.
I think, frankly, people are tired of the finger pointing in the politics, and nothing happens.
Still not explaining exactly what measures he's taking in response to the shooting.
It's not too late, but he should have already been there.
I didn't disappear when times got tough. That's the mark of a true leader, and that's the importance of crisis communication.
Rhetoric expert Richard Vatz and political analyst Doug Eldridge both saying Baltimore residents deserve more.
Not just there to extend thoughts and prayers, but plans and courses of action, because that is what is needed at this point.
But the governor has to act. He can't just iterate the expected platitudes and expect people to think that things are going to change.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
The governor says he's committed to public safety, but Republicans complain that the Democratic majority in Annapolis only passed one significant crime bill this legislative session. 3 other bills never made it past committee. They would have made the use of a gun during a violent crime a felony, increased fines or jail time for repeat firearm convictions, and made the theft of a handgun a felony. According to a recent Gonzalez poll, nearly 90% of Marylanders support making stealing a gun a felony. We'd like you to join the conversation as well. Should Governor Westmore call an immediate special session to combat violent crime? So far, 93% of those who voted say yes. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Well, violence affecting young people continuing today across the state. In Harford County, a 17-year-old is one of 4 victims in a quadruple shooting in Edgewood. Baltimore City police say he walked into a Baltimore hospital seeking treatment, telling police he was shot in Edgewood. Also in Baltimore, a juvenile was shot in the Douglas home areas around 4 p.m. In Baltimore County, a suspect is in custody after a boy was shot this morning in Dundalk. The victim in that shooting tied to a stolen car in Baltimore City.
Baltimore City leaders touted the summer curfew as a way to keep youth crime under control. So far, the results haven't reflected the promises. And now, some of the youth connection centers in Baltimore appear to be drastically cutting their hours. Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us live with his findings. Jeff?
Well, what we're learning tonight is that the city's new curfew enforcement program has been shutting down 3, sometimes 4 hours early, at sometimes before the curfew had even gone into effect itself.
Baltimore has had a curfew ordinance in place for much of my lifetime.
From the beginning, the mayor vowed that the city's new style of enforcing curfew would be relentless.
And we're going to do everything to save our young people, including enforcing curfew.
But now, 6 weeks into the effort, there are questions whether the city's strategy has become more relaxed than relentless. The effort relies on volunteers to engage youth violators and encourage them to go home or agree to be transported to this curfew connection center in Park Heights, where they're treated to food and games while they await a ride home. According to the city, the curfew center would be open each weekend until 3 in the morning, but sources tell Fox 45 that has hardly been the case. This past Friday, the start of the holiday weekend, sources tell us the center shut down at 11 p.m., which is the same time the curfew for many teens begins. On Saturday, the center shut down at midnight, and 30 minutes after the volunteers went home, the bullets began flying in Brooklyn, injuring more than a dozen teenagers. The very next night, it was another midnight closing, 3 hours before it was slated to shut down.
The curfew is over. And what we need him to do is man up and say, hey, it was a bad idea. I made a mistake. It failed. So we decided to close all centers.
Last week, the city did close another community center in Northeast Baltimore after no violators had agreed to be transported to either center. The week after the city launched its curfew strategy, the rear window on a curfew van similar to this one was shattered. Volunteers inside that van were forced to retreat. Activist Kenji Scott says it's time to put the brakes on the city's effort, which is costing taxpayers more than $1 million.
We could have seen a lot of good places the $1 million could have went to really provide some real serious services to these young people.
Well, last week, the city admitted it is still assessing the program and making adjustments. It has not addressed why the program appears to be shutting down so early on the weekends. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
A dazzling display at the Inner Harbor tonight. You can see the Baltimore fireworks high above the water and reflecting off its surface. And out on the horizon, you can just make out a few other displays from across our region.
Oh, yeah. Wow. What a beautiful show there. And some nice weather to go with it. HD radar showing finally clearing out all the rain and the thunder as we promised you. It really went off without a hitch, and you could still see a little bit of the haze from some of the fireworks on the Toyota East Inner Harbor Skycam gradually clearing out. It's 78 degrees now at BWI, 79 at Aberdeen. It is muggy, it is mild, 73 at Easton and 79 at Westminster. No complaining. We've had 4 days off, right? It's back to work for a lot of folks for tomorrow. 75 at 8 a.m. And then as we head into the midday and afternoon, the heat is on again. Made it to 92 today. Looks like tomorrow probably into the 90s as well. Feeling like low to mid 90s. I'll let you know when we can have a break in the heat and if it comes at the expense of rain. My Weather Authority forecast.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at investigation into the Safe Streets program, demanding answers about how workers are trained and why some sites seem to be closed, how this weekend's mass shooting created even more questions about the program. A new warning about your dollars and your data, how digital pirates are finding ways to steal your money and how to protect yourself. 4th of July celebrations in Baltimore City go on without any major issues, despite concerns from some about safety. A closer look at the security measures in place. Baltimore police admitting they didn't send the proper resources to Brooklyn before 30 people were shot at a block party on Sunday morning. Why they didn't is yet to be answered.
We do know Safe Streets workers were at that event earlier in the afternoon, and the shooting was in a Safe Streets zone. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost investigates why there wasn't stronger communication between city organizations.
The chaotic scene in South Baltimore over the weekend now turning into questions for leaders about how it happened. A mass shooting killing 2 young people and injuring 28 others. Of those who were shot but survived, 15 under 18 years old. Acting Baltimore Police Commissioner Richard Worley blaming the lack of police presence at the massive gathering on an intelligence failure.
We knew it was coming. We just didn't know when, but we could have planned for it.
But the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, the city's public safety agency, knew Brooklyn Day was taking place.
Earlier in the evening, some of our Safe Street staff, just as a part of their community activities, were out there and actively de-escalated 3 to 4 conflicts earlier in the evening.
Raising the question,
if BPD didn't know about this, but Safe Streets did, is that a breakdown in communication within the mayor's office and city government?
Mayor Brandon Scott saying Safe Streets workers need to maintain credibility in the community.
We are going to investigate every breakdown that you heard before, but what we're not going to do is stand up here and try to make this about some organization decisions or what they did or what they didn't do today.
Let's look at what Safe Streets did or didn't do.
Former Deputy BPD Commissioner Jason Johnson argues Safe Streets should be under the microscope, especially if workers didn't escalate concerns to other agencies like police if there was a potential threat.
And whatever protocols they work under, I think, are a secret. So I don't know that those protocols exist.
During Monday's update on the mass shooting investigation, we directly asked the interim director of Monzi.
Is it part of the Safe Streets protocol to relay that information to BPD if there is a potential threat that's possible at a large gathering like this?
I don't know that Safe Streets would relay that. I would say there is some level of communication about any incidents that are outside of their purview.
That's part of the problem with this whole program is that it's done kind of in the dark, and we don't really know what the rules are.
And that brings us here to the accountability desk, because we've been investigating the Safe Streets program for years. Mayor Brandon Scott often touts Safe Streets as the city's flagship gun violence prevention program. Through our investigation, we've asked a number of questions, including the fact that we're trying to figure out how a mediation is defined. According to Monzi, as of June 24th, Safe Streets workers have completed 861 mediations. We still don't know exactly what constitutes as a mediation. Now, the city isn't giving us the names of the Safe Streets workers because they say it's a way to protect their identities, but we still have been asking a number of other questions about how this operation runs, including what type of training is provided to the Safe Streets workers, who does that training, and who's responsible for ensuring the Safe Streets workers are doing their jobs. We've also learned that some of these 10 Safe Streets locations have moved. We've gone to all 10 of the Safe Streets locations over the years, and recently, FOX45's drone spotting Cherry Hills location had been moved. It was once a trailer. Now aerial video shows it's gone. The Penn North location used to be in a large apartment building, now in a well-marked building around the corner. After we learned those locations had moved, we sent a few questions to Monzi asking, when did these locations move? And when will the city's map online showing the locations be updated to reflect the changes? Monzi has a new interim director, Stephanie Mavrones. She took over when last week, Shantae Jackson, the former leader, her resignation became effective. Now, the city says it plans to have a permanent director for the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement in place by the end of this month. It's unclear if the new leadership will usher in more transparency for the agency, but we'll continue to investigate. If you have any information about how the Safe Streets program operates, send it to me directly at safestreetstips@gmail.com. At the accountability desk, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
In West Baltimore, a 53-year-old man is killed after he was stabbed along McHenry Street around 11 this morning. Police say he died of shock trauma. Anyone with information is asked to call City Police or Metro Crime Stoppers.
And a man was shot in Owings Mills late last night. Just after 11, officers responded to GBMC in Towson, where a man had brought himself to the hospital. Investigators say the man was shot on Owings Mills Boulevard near Lionswood Drive. The man's injuries are not life-threatening. Coming up, 4th of July festivities across the country, how the Baltimore area and the rest of America is celebrating Independence Day.
And if you're hoping for some relief from the heat and humidity, well, doesn't look like that's going to be happening anytime soon. We're going to be in the thick of a heat wave next several days. Today, we had the stifling humidity, and guess what? Those dew point numbers, that measure moisture in the air, it's going to stay up all the way into at least Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'll let you know if we have any hope in cooling temperatures and if it's going to come at the expense of weekend rain. That's in my Weather Authority forecast coming up.
A new warning about your wallet and personal data as digital pirates are finding new ways to steal your money. But how are they pulling it off?
National correspondent Christine Frizzell has some alarming new findings.
The recent change in policy by streaming service Netflix that only those in the same household can use an account has sent users scrambling. And while Netflix has seen a major spike in subscriptions, others will choose a different route, logging on or signing up for what's known as a piracy streaming site.
We live in a golden age of entertainment where we have so many choices when it comes to TV shows and movies. Piracy operators know that, and so they're using the lure of free content to convince us to visit their sites.
But it turns out it's not really free. The free and low-cost sites that let you watch your favorite shows from Netflix, Hulu, HBO, and Apple TV
I think that's what it's all about, embracing change.
often steal your info and your money, according to new research from the watchdog group Digital Citizens Alliance, which found 72% of those whose credit card had been breached reported using it for a piracy subscription. Just 18% said they had not. The group also found out firsthand.
We acquired a brand new credit card, so pristine, not used for anything else, and we signed up for 20 piracy sites that took credit cards. We then waited.
Executive Director Tom Galvin says within 3 months there were $1,500 in illicit purchases, purportedly for grocery delivery, women's apparel, computer software, and more, originating from countries like China and Lithuania. Meanwhile, the groups behind the sites are cashing in, raking in more than $2 billion, both from advertising revenue and the low-cost subscriptions, plus those credit card purchases, and in many cases, being paid by hackers to install malware on people's computers. The warnings come despite a law passed by Congress in 2020 called the Protecting Lawful Streaming Act. While it significantly increases criminal penalties for those who illegally stream copyrighted material for financial gain, critics say it needs to be far more aggressively enforced. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
Coming up at 10:30, safety is on the minds of many for Baltimore's 4th of July celebrations that happened tonight. The security measures that took place for tonight's fireworks at the Inner Harbor.
A new poll shows patriotism on the decline this Independence Day. I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington. Coming up, how defining a patriot is growing increasingly complicated.
We're following three big stories at 10:30. People in Baltimore and across the country are celebrating the 4th of July, but a new study shows patriotism is on the decline, while younger Americans don't seem to be as passionate about the red, white, and blue.
Fox 45 News is taking you to Independence Day celebrations throughout our area, including the Towson Parade.
And recent violence in Baltimore had people on edge about attending this year's celebrations at the Inner Harbor. We're getting a look at security measures in place.
Even though some people Fox 45 News spoke with were hesitant about tonight's festivities, thousands of people flocked to the Inner Harbor to watch the fireworks. You're taking a live look as folks are clearing out on the left side of your screen, and tonight's firework display, of course, on the right.
Well, tonight's show went smoothly without any major incidents, we're told.
And Fox 45's Amy Simpson takes a look at the security measures in place tonight.
How am I going to do this?
Setting up along the Inner Harbor.
I was on the other side last year.
A Baltimore-based food vendor.
Jerk chicken tacos.
Hopeful to see crowds for the 4th.
This is the harbor, and we want people to know that it is safe down here to come and enjoy. Bring your families.
On her own this afternoon, this local business owner acknowledging the tragedy in Brooklyn Homes just 2 days ago.
With all the stuff that's been going on, come on down, have some fun.
Good afternoon, everyone.
It's a celebration that we want everyone to come to the harbor and enjoy.
Baltimore police vowing a visible presence for Independence Day celebrations. As questions linger about the lack of police presence at Sunday's Brooklyn Day block party, when 30 people were shot, many of them teens. An 18-year-old and 20-year-old were killed.
You will see multiple officers deployed through several zones around the harbor, as well as officers in the districts working to patrol and keep all those communities safe and anything that may pop up on the 4th of July.
Sunday's tragedy still heavy in the air as Baltimore braces for visitors for the 4th of July.
But one also sees the glare or the reflection of the fireworks in the water. And so that makes Baltimore a pretty unique setting for such a celebration.
Today, a local economist pointing to Fort McHenry, the inspiration behind the Star-Spangled Banner, as another reason to celebrate the 4th in Baltimore, but says Sunday's mass shooting could keep some from coming downtown.
People have a reason not to come to Baltimore, even when they have great reason to come to Baltimore. And again, that mitigates attendance, economic impact, and just the joy of living in one of the nation's largest metropolitan areas.
On Monday, this man sharing hesitation about bringing family for fireworks.
I don't want to put them in a situation where we have to be running for our lives.
While Flair Cuisine caterer says Sunday's mass shooting didn't deter them from wanting to feed visitors at the harbor, bringing more food this year after selling out last July.
Nothing is going to stop us. You're still going to have crime is everywhere. It really is. But I still think you should come down.
Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Well, the celebrations have been going on all day across our area.
Chief photojournalist Ben Ott takes us to Towson for this year's 4th celebration.
Everybody gets out here for July the 4th.
4th of July, Independence Day.
Happy 4th of July!
People celebrating, people having fun.
You see so many people that are dressed up in red, white, and blue colors.
A lot of people come out to celebrate. It's very much to celebrate our country, and it's very patriotic.
Oh, look at the horses, Alex. They're so pretty.
I like the percussion the best, but even when they're not playing songs, they have a really good street beat.
My favorite part of the parade, waving my flag around, you know.
It's a combination of everything. Fire departments and politicians, older ones, younger ones, all kinds.
Oh, look at those silly clowns. Hey, Mr. Clown, happy 4th of July.
So much enjoyment for everybody.
Oh, he's throwing bread.
Thank you.
Bread, it's fresh bread.
Happy Independence Day.
We've got a great country, and it gives them an opportunity to come out and show their pride for America and the American way.
Well, many of you have been sending in pictures of your 4th of July celebrations. Jamil sent in this picture of baby Jaylin. So precious, celebrating her first 4th of July. Kai said she's a little snack, dressed all in red, white, and blue stars. Adorable. And thanks to Corey for sending in a picture of his Independence Day barbecue. That looks delicious, featuring brisket with all the fixings and watermelon crushes. Look at those glasses. That's fantastic. And thanks to Aaron for this picture of some patriotic horseback riders in the Bel Air Parade. Well, we'd love to see how you're celebrating Independence Day. Send us your most patriotic photos and videos through the Chime In tab at foxbaltimore.com or on the WBFF app.
And taking a look at some 4th of July celebrations around the country. On the top left, kids took part in an ice cream eating contest in Mississippi. Top right, actor Gary Sinise visited veterans at a VA center in Chicago, handing out ice cream. And GOP presidential hopefuls took part in parades today. Former Vice President Mike Pence marched in the Des Moines, Iowa parade, while Florida Governor Ron DeSantis celebrated in New Hampshire. DeSantis spoke with supporters, saying Americans must work to protect the freedom they celebrate today.
Each generation's got to step up and be a custodian of freedom. I think right now is our generation's time to do that, because I think freedom's been under assault in this country.
Joining DeSantis in New Hampshire is Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, and former Congressman Will Hurd of Texas, and businessman Perry Johnson. Former Vice President Mike Pence, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, and radio host Larry Elder are marching in Iowa. Iowa and New Hampshire will kick off the GOP presidential nominating calendar.
3, 2, 1, put down your hot dog!
A tradition as American as they come, I suppose, the Nathan's annual hot dog eating contest on Coney Island. Joey Chestnut takes home the crown once again, wolfing down 62 hot dogs in 10 minutes. His blood pressure is through the roof. Sounds like a lot. It's still 11 hot dogs short of his world record set back in 2016. On the women's side, Miki Sudo, and she's won before, is the winner. She ate 39 and a half. Wow. Well, today's event almost didn't happen. The contest was originally canceled due to bad weather. In the true spirit of America, the people fought back and the contest was held after a 2-hour rain delay. But social media still had some fun during that delay. Jerry says it's time to build a dome over Coney Island. The weather delays are ruining the sport. And Jorge says this is already the worst 4th of July in history, calling the would-be cancellation un-American. And Jeopardy champion James Holzhauer took the sarcastic route, saying one day the event will see the technology to eat hot dogs indoors. Well, on this 4th of July, new research shows patriotism may be at an historic low. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story.
As we celebrate this Independence Day.
Happy 4th of July!
Only around 4 in 10 adults say they're extremely proud to be an American.
I feel like it's declined. Like, just wearing the flag sometimes I feel like is sometimes a little bit mixed up feelings, you know.
Another sign patriotism continues to slip.
Things are really politicized now.
According to Gallup, Republicans are consistently more likely than Democrats and independents to express extreme pride. But Democrats making a push to reclaim the flag.
A symbol of all that we hold most dear as Americans.
Joe Biden's first re-election campaign ad dripping with patriotic imagery.
Freedom.
Since 2019, Democrats' pride increasing slightly as Republicans dips by 16 points. Defining what a patriot is growing increasingly complicated. How would you define a patriot?
That's a good question. I think people are trying to answer it right now, aren't they?
The term taking on different meanings from person to person.
Be proud of where you're from. It may be hard sometimes, but always be proud.
And group to group.
Somebody that's giving of themselves for their country, whether it's a teacher, a social worker.
I think it's a mixture of both, supporting your community and supporting your country.
In another poll, 41% answered incorrectly when asked what the 4th of July commemorates, which is the ratification of the Declaration of Independence by the Continental Congress. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
The Maryland Cannabis Administration is out with the numbers for sales of recreational marijuana this weekend. Recreational weed was legalized, of course, on Saturday, and on that day alone, Marylanders bought more than $3 million worth of recreational marijuana. Marylanders spent more than $10 million on weed for the whole weekend. There is a 9% tax on marijuana. That money goes to local jurisdictions to benefit low-income residents and anybody disproportionately harmed by cannabis prohibition and enforcement. You can find more on how Baltimore City will use its weed tax revenue on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Well, taking a look now at the Fox Box top left, the governor of Ohio is asking President Biden to make a disaster declaration after the East Palestine train derailment back in February. The governor says he's concerned the train company will stop giving aid, and a disaster declaration would make sure the federal and state government can use all resources available to help the community move forward.
On the top right, the Secret Service is investigating cocaine found in the White House yesterday. Authorities are investigating how it got into the building. They won't say exactly where it was found.
Bottom left, a new report suggests a 2016 White House scheduling email sent to then Vice President Joe Biden ahead of a call with former Ukrainian president was also sent to his son Hunter. That's according to the Washington Times. It's not clear if Hunter Biden was part of the call, though. Happened while Hunter served on the board for Burisma, which is accused of hiring him to dodge charges from the Ukrainian prosecutor general.
On the bottom right, new data from Ballotpedia shows school board recall efforts nationwide are above pre-pandemic levels at 150 efforts so far this year. Pre-pandemic data showed an average of 210 efforts annually. One parental rights advocate says the shift makes sense.
I think parents, started to see a window into some of this during the pandemic when schools were closed for so long and school boards didn't listen to parents when parents were concerned.
The data shows that the topics that have motivated parents for the push for recalls have ranged. Some include transparency, curriculum, concerns, and also school budgets.
Still ahead, families still fighting for justice 5 years after the Parkland shooting, the powerful message behind their cross-country mission. And some of the brightest minds in the world will gather in Baltimore tomorrow. Why they're visiting Charm City and the celebrity coming with them. That's ahead on the Late Edition.
And yes, it's back to work for a lot of folks for tomorrow morning. And yes, it looks like it's going to be easy travels in. Temperatures in the 70s, rising to about 80 degrees by the end of your commute. But I'll let you know if that's going to lead to more pop-up showers and storms tomorrow. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.